Okay, we're moving on to question 4. What proportion of the vehicles are manual with a V-shaped engine? What proportion of the manual vehicles have a V-shaped engine? What proportion of the V-shaped engines are automatic? We want to create necessary contingency tables to answer these questions. Okay, so we first just need to recognize we're looking at two discrete categorical variables. So we have manual, so we're thinking about transmission. We have V-shape, so we're thinking about engine type. And we want to look at both of these variables at the same time. So let's go to our data. So we're interested in both engine type and transmission. So we've already created some tables over here, so contingency tables. So this is just one variable, automatic versus manual, or over here, S-shape versus V-shape. But we now want to show both of these in the same table. So let's go to our data. Let's make another pivot table. So we select our data, insert, pivot table, hit OK. We have a new sheet. We're going to move it all the way to the end. And let's title this question 4. Okay, so we want to compare these two variables at the same time. So let's move engine type as rows, so we have our row headers. And let's move transmission to column headers. And now we just want to count these. So we can use either variable. For count, it's just counting the number of non-missing values in our data. And notice that we do not have any missing values in either of these. So it doesn't matter what we use as our values here. So let's just take engine type and put engine type in values. And now notice we're getting a count. So this is a contingency table. So I just selected those cells, I select these 4 cells. I'm going to say merge and center. And then I'm going to title this contingency table of engine type and transmission. If I want, I could bold it. I can make it a little bit bigger. It's up to you. However you want to make it pretty. So we can see that there are 14 total S-shaped vehicles. 7 of them are automatic, 7 of them are manual. There are 18 V-shaped, 12 of which are automatic, and 6 are manual. Okay, so let's go back to our questions. So I'm just going to copy. So if I just say right-click, copy. Let's go back to our tab. I'm just going to right-click, paste. So, maybe not the best place to do that. Let me paste it here. Okay, so if you just click on this wrap text button up here, that'll go away. And I'm going to get rid of the highlighting. Move it up here. So let's address each of these questions separately. Okay. So what proportion of the vehicles are manual with a V-shaped engine? Okay, so notice that these are just counts. They're not percents. So what if we change this to percent? So how about let's just copy and paste this entire table. So I'm going to highlight the whole table, say copy, and then down here I'm just going to do paste. Now I want to convert this to percentages. So if I just click on any of the numbers in the table and I right click, show values as percent of grand total. And now it's a percent. So let's address this first question first. What proportion of the vehicles are manual with a V-shaped engine? So I'm just going to let me do cut and paste down here. And let's answer that. So what proportion of the vehicles are manual? So we want manual with a V-shaped engine. And we can see that manual V-shape will give us 18.75%. Let's go ahead and highlight that. So our answer is 18.75%. Okay, what proportion of the manual vehicles have a V-shaped engine? So this isn't an overall percent. We just want the percent out of all manuals, what proportion of them have a V-shape. So I'm going to go ahead and copy paste this again. So copy, paste, and I'm going to bring this question back down. So what proportion of the manual vehicles have a V-shaped engine? So we want the proportion by column, right? We want the proportion of the manuals, so proportion of the manuals. So transmission is in the column. So how about we right click, show values as, instead of percent of grand total, let's do percent of column total. So notice that these are now adding up to 100% by column. Right, up here is overall, so we only saw 100% for the grand total. But here we have percents by column total. So what this is saying is what proportion of the manual vehicles have a V-shape. So out of the manual, how many of them have V-shape? Well, that's 46.15%. So 46.15%. If we wanted to analyze some of these other numbers, we would say, so 43% of the vehicles are S-shaped, 56% are V-shaped, 63% of automatic vehicles are V-shaped. This is 53% of manual vehicles are S-shaped. Okay, and now we want to address this last question. What proportion of the V-shaped engines are automatic? So now we want our proportions to be out of our rows. So here we did it by columns. Now let's do it by row. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this one more time. So copy, paste. Get rid of this highlighting. So now let's do show values as. So we just did percent of column total, but now we want percent of row total because we want to do it by engines shape. So let's go ahead and select percent of row total. So let's just analyze this. So half of the S-shaped engines are automatic, half of the S-shaped engines are manual. But let's address our question of interest. So let me move that down here. So what proportion of the V-shaped engines are automatic? So if I go to V-shape, so notice that the 100% are now by row rather than column. And I want how many of them are automatic, which is 67%. So we would say 66.6, or I'll just say 66.7%. Okay, and we answered all of these. So we had so V-shape. So manual with V-shape, we had 18.75%. So 18.75, comma, what was our next one? And then we had 46.15. And then we had 66.7. And also I can just click up here in this top box to edit this text box, 66.7. Okay, that is question 4.